share Bunny Staycation with everyone.
Right. Laurie is the writer and illustrator of this adorable new picture book called Bunny Staycation. So we're here to talk about the book and about the messages in the book and the creating of the book and all that fun stuff. And I want to give you a little bit of background on Laurie. Laurie is the author-illustrator of other children's books. You also wrote the book Paxton Blue.
Yes.
And then you're the illustrator of Oopsie Doo, A Hop Is Up, and Skelly's Halloween. You're also a parenting expert. So this sort of brings these worlds together with this book. And I think what's really sort of fun about this book is that it's something that's perfect for parents who go away on business trips to share with their children to kind of get them through the experience in a fun and meaningful way. So let's talk about the book. First of all, what was the inspiration for writing it?
Well, my own experiences as a working parent, both one who has traveled and the one that has stayed behind, totally played into the creation of this book. So now I make books full time, but prior to that, for about 20 years, I worked in a corporate environment. I was a creative director. I had to travel from time to time. And when my kids were really little, they experienced a lot of anxiety about that. You know, where are you going? When are you coming home? You know, we're going to miss you. And, you know, that was always very difficult. And I saw other parents in my office that I was working amongst dealing with the same issue. And then fast forward a few years, now my husband is the one who travels very frequently. Last year alone, he traveled 125,000 miles, which was a lot. And so I noticed that at bedtime, that's when my kids really were attuned to him being missing. Like, oh, Dad's not here to read bedtime stories tonight. And I couldn't find a book for them for this specific situation that I knew so many kids were going through, you know, to give them a positive way to get through the challenge. So I decided that I was going to have to make it myself. And so that's you know, where the inspiration came from.
And it's true, especially I think in this day and age, a lot of people do travel for work, right?
Yeah.
And so bedtime is often the time when there's that togetherness with parents and kids. And so when that's out of that routine, it's kind of jolting to kids, right?
Exactly. And everyone's so busy, you know, like going from activity to activity and after school sports and doing homework. And then finally it's like, oh, that time where everyone's just like taking a breath and resting and having that quiet time. And then when, you know, the parent isn't there, that's when it really becomes noticeable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or more noticeable.
So what I want to know also, Bunny, how did the idea of this Bunny family and the mama and papa and Bunny, how did this sort of become, you know, the focus of the book?
Well, it actually didn't start out as a family of bunnies. If you're willing, I want to play a quick game with you that I play with kids when I bring the book to school. Okay. So we always talk about where ideas come from. So I'm going to show you 3 cards.
Okay.
And you're going to have to tell me which one do you think is where the idea for Bunny came from. We have a carrot.
Okay.
We have a monster.
Okay.
Or we have a green crayon.
Okay.
So which one do you think represents where the idea for Bunny came from?
I'm going to go with the carrot, but I'm thinking it might be the crayon. So I'm going to hedge my bets.
It's
the monster. How did that? So
right? Totally obvious, right? It started with a monster. No. My younger son one day had asked me to draw an orange suitcase monster. And so I said, well, what is that? So we had fun. We were doodling together and drawing. And we started to talk about, like, why is the monster in the suitcase? Where did the monster come from? And I wound up developing this whole story around this monster and a suitcase. And it had a boy in there. And it was about the time when my husband's travel picked up a lot. And I made that connection between the parent traveling and the suitcase. And I wrote many, many versions of that story. And then through some wonderful guidance of my literary agent and some critique groups, I wound up, you know, changing the story a lot. And I thought, what is the opposite of a monster? A cute little bunny. So I started, you know, drawing it with bunnies, and I started immediately connecting more to the story, revised it many, many more times, and that's how it eventually morphed into being the bunnies.
Oh, well, and they're very cute bunnies. They almost sort of look like little hand puppet bunnies.
Yeah.
For those of you, this is the book, obviously. It's adorable. There are just many, many cute, first of all, you're very talented. I love the illustrations.
Thank you.
And it's very accessible. I think it's just like kids can make kind of an instant connection with this bunny who, you know, one of the things I love about the book, which I know we're going to get into, is that it's very positive in that the bunny and Papa sort of create all these sort of travels that they do in this staycation, hence it's Bunny Staycation, right? What I thought was interesting too is what's crossed out here, if you can see it, is Mama's business trip. So it's more about Bunny's Staycation, right? Versus
Right.
Mama's Visit Trip. Can you
Right.
talk about the decision?
Sure, yeah. And, much like when I talk to the kids and how the idea starts in one place and it meanders and it ends someplace else, that also happened with the jacket design. And it went through a lot of different iterations, and I was trying to show the message of, the creativity and the craftiness, but also the fact that it is about a traveling parent, because that was so important to the hook of the story. And I worked with the wonderful team here at Scholastic. We went through many revisions, and I remember I was sitting at my kitchen table and I was like banging my head against it, basically thinking like, I can't crack this problem. How am I going to show this? And I started to think about the title being a metaphor for what Bunny actually does in the story. He takes Mama's business trip and turns it into a staycation. So I actually had Bunny change the title of the book to the staycation. So hence the cross out.
Right.
And it gives Bunny like a little power too to be in this challenging situation, but be able to use creativity and imagination to change it into something positive.
Yeah, that's really cool. And if you're just joining us, we're here talking about the book Bunny's Staycation with author and illustrator Laurie Richmond. We would love to get your questions, so please write them in the comments below. We want this to be a conversation with you guys, because I'm sure you have great questions for Laurie. And I think some questions are here, so I'm gonna take a look. Fantastic. All right, so we have a question from Shannon Nail Guyton, who said, how did you come up with what Bunny looked like? Love his half ear.
Oh yeah, Bunny
Observant.
Bunny has mismatchy ears.
That's really cool.
So when I started sketching the bunnies as I was going through that revision process, I sort of by accident drew the two different sized ears. And when I looked at the sketch, I was like, that's kind of cute because it makes Bunny unique, and the character silhouette is so, just so different from anything I'd ever seen. And I started to think about when I was a kid, my feet were slightly two different sizes when I was little until I was like a teenager. And this apparently is a thing that can happen. And it took a while for everything to catch up and even out. And I thought, well, maybe that's the case with Bunny's ears. Maybe Bunny's ears haven't evened out. Or maybe Bunny just looks a little more unique, compared to all the other bunnies.
Which I think is also relatable to kids, right?
He's
not a perfect little bunny. He's a unique bunny.
And Bunny's crown is on the little ear because that's the one the bunny can reach.
Yeah.
With his little arms.
That's really cool. So talk to me a little bit. What I find interesting, and I think a question that we get a lot from people is, they're interested in writing children's books. How does one make that transition? I know it's not an easy transition, but I'd love to hear about your journey. You were, again, as you said, you were a corporate creative director, and then you made the transition to becoming a children's book author and illustrator. How did you make that transition?
Yeah, I think we would need a whole other live chat to talk about the whole process. But, I've always loved drawing and art. And because what I was doing in my day job was not very tactile, I was working on a lot of digital products, which was very exciting. Yeah. But, as someone who is an artist and likes to create things with my hands, I felt like that was missing. So I really started just pursuing it on the side. Once my kids got old enough, they were probably around 3 years old and 6 years old at the time, I started taking continuing education classes outside of my day job to learn about picture books and, get back into drawing again. And it was kind of reawakening that part of myself that was missing for so long that really kept me inspired. And then I went to a lot of workshops. I joined the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And it was really like going to those workshops and creating and sharing my work and getting feedback that, eventually led to my first contract.
And what about the writing process of it? Because you obviously have an art background, but you didn't necessarily have a writing background, right? I mean,
no.
How did you make that transition to writing books?
Writing's really hard. It's still really hard. So I definitely consider myself, an illustrator first. And for me, when I work on books, even though writing is the most challenging for me, I always start with the words. And then I get to a certain point where I feel like I'm ready to start moving into the sketching process, and I start adding drawings and, laying out the book. And then at that point, I go back and edit the words because you really get a sense of the page turn and, is the story arc working, and are you getting those moments of tension where you need them? So then at that point, it becomes a very fluid process where the words and the pictures, happen at the same time.
Come together.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you have some cool sort of crafts for us. I want to show the part of the book that we're going to talk about, and then this will be kind of a fun show and tell. This is going to be great. So in the book, as we talked about, Bunny obviously goes on a lot of journeys, and there's a wintry wonderland, a trip to the tropics, a safari adventure. So here's the part of the book where there's a trip to the tropics that they go on a Tuesday, right?
Yes.
So talk us through this and show us what you have to kind of show and tell us.
So Bunny and Papa are creating their own adventures throughout different rooms in the house. So they've converted their bathroom here into their own island experience, their own island adventure. So I actually brought some materials that Bunny and Papa used in the book. They didn't go to the craft store. They didn't spend any money. They just went through the drawers and used what they had in the house. So I'll make a couple of things just like Bunny and Papa did, but just to show what they use, just some simple colored paper, construction paper works, even just grocery bags that you want to color and cut up, just some crayons. Anybody with young kids at home is going to have some crayons, simple glue, any kind of glue, and tape, and a pair of scissors. So Bunny and Papa make a lot of these little palm trees to use in their adventure in the bathroom. And this is actually from the bathroom as well, a toilet paper roll.
Everyone has it.
Yeah, if you're potty training children, you probably have a lot of toilet paper going on at home. So when the roll is finished, just recycle it. And then you can cut a little leaf-like shape out. You just glue it onto the toilet paper roll, or this is a paper towel one that I cut in half. And then you have your little trees, and they even stand up on their own. They also made these little starfish shapes. And this too, you just freestyle cut it out. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's just about having fun, and then you can kind of like tape those up on the wall. Bunny and Papa also put on their sunglasses to really get into the island spirit. So you can use your own sunglasses, or you can make a set of these. So I made these for you, Serena.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so this is just a lollipop stick, or a popsicle stick rather, and then I just traced the sunglasses on a piece of construction paper, cut them out, and it's super fun. You can use them kind of like photo booth prop style. And then these are just some cups I pulled out of the cabinet on the way here, so brought one for you as well. And some paper straws that have a fun pattern. You can put some water in here, or whatever juice your child likes, and make like a mocktail. So, you can fill up the tub, get your mocktail, put on your shades, feel the island breezes, and it makes it really fun, for a kid.
And it's very doable. I mean, this is like for people, I am not a very crafty person, but I would say that this is manageable for even parents who are not so crafty to kind of create this experience.
Yeah, and I think people get intimidated by the idea of drawing. Oh, I'm a bad artist. And really the only thing in this adventure that they drew was the sun on the wall. And, anybody can draw a circle with some lines on it. So it's not about, I'm not creative, or I'm not a good artist. If you feel like you're not a good artist, let your kid lead the way, because all kids are amazing artists.
That is very true.
And, they will show you how to do it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think we have some more questions. This is awesome. Thank you for this. Okay, we have a question from Lauren Eldridge. She says, I love the end papers. Did you ever have different ideas in mind? The end papers. Yes.
So the end papers are in the front and the back. So yeah, for anyone who is unfamiliar with end papers, these are like what's pasted down to the hardcover, and then the opposite page. We actually have two different end paper designs here. So the front end papers are Bunny's artwork. So Bunny loves to draw, and there's always artwork around in the bedroom and around the house. So there's some little clues here as to the staycations that Bunny is going to have, but the reader doesn't know at this point. And then in the back end papers, these are kind of little Polaroid shots of, I think of them as outtakes of the adventures that Bunny and Papa had. So, their faux campfire and the little, jumping in the tub there. And then under the flap, we kind of learn a little bit more about what happened to Mama on the business trip. So you see a little bit of her, giving a presentation. She's got her Venn diagram. She's doing some important stuff at her job. And so this kind of finishes off the story.
It's the story within the story in a way, right?
Yeah.
It sort of gives, it's what we don't see happening in Mama's world when she's away is kind of, it's alluded to here.
Right, right. And then presumably when the family reunites, at the end, they can share their each adventures with each other.
Yeah, that's great. And then we have another question. Anna Raff asks, do you have a favorite spread and why?
I do.
Yes.
It's the one where, I'll help you find it. It's the one where Bunny is trying to get rid of Mama's suitcase.
Oh,
so it's this
awesome.
one. Yeah, so at the beginning of the book, Bunny's original plan is, Mama's not going away at all. And the way that Bunny is going to stop this from happening is to get rid of her suitcase, because if she doesn't have her stuff, she can't go anywhere. So there's all these different shenanigans that happen, which are really, really fun, trying to ship it off in a mailbox, wearing a spy disguise, putting it in a time machine, maybe sending it back some other with the dinosaurs or something like that, and
plants. I love
hiding in the plants with the ears are sticking out. So these actually the time machine box is something that my own kids have actually made.
Really?
Yeah, not to get rid of a suitcase, but a lot of this is inspired by things that have happened in our own house.
I like the free suitcase. I think that's
the lemonade stand.
Yeah, no lemonade, but there's a free suitcase,
or buy a lemonade, get a free suitcase with all my mom's stuff.
There you go. There you go. These are great questions, guys.
Yeah.
And if you're joining us now, just to let you know, this is Laurie Richmond. She is the author and illustrator of this wonderful picture book, Bunny Staycation. So please, any questions you have, please write them in the comments below. We love to hear from you. One of the things too that I think is interesting, about the book is, of course, there's the fun aspect of it, but there's also the aspect that, kids have a hard time with separation, right?
Sure.
And so that's something that's a challenge. So if a parent goes on a business trip, it kind of jolts them in a way where suddenly they had their parents there and then a parent's gone. And so kind of talk to me about that as, kind of your thinking in writing this, and maybe any thoughts or tips you have around that.
Sure. And I've been, as I said, on both sides of this coin. I've been the parent that has to leave and the parent that stays behind, and both of them have their own sets, of challenges, both, for the parents and the kids. So I would say when you are traveling, when you're the parent that's traveling, it's really important to communicate to your child where you're going and how long you're going to be away. And, small children have a hard time measuring time. 1 hour feels like 3 weeks in some cases. So it's important to visualize how long you're going to be away. And in the book, Mama gives Bunny a little calendar with the 5 business days that she's going to be gone marked off, so that they're able to, put an X or a sticker or whatever it is. And I believe on the Scholastic website, people can actually download the same calendar that Mama and Bunny use in the book for their own children. So that's like a fun way to help them visualize how long they'll be away. And have your child help you pack. That's a good time to have a conversation about their feelings about you leaving and, any anxieties they might have. And sometimes, your child's going to be worried about you as well. Like, are you going to be lonely without me, mom or dad? And so you could offer to take one of their small plush toys, like let them pick something. They can pack a little bag, and send you off with a travel companion. Right. So, because kids are going to worry about the parent also.
Yeah. And I think too, what's sort of great about this modern age is there's FaceTime. And so, my husband was just on a business trip for 2 weeks, and every night we FaceTimed with him. And it gave our kids an opportunity to, keep him updated on their adventures and what they were up to, and have a silly moment with him like they would if he was home. And so I feel like that's also an opportunity to stay connected.
Oh, definitely.
Once a day. So they know every day that passes, there's going to be a time in that day when mommy or daddy, they can have that connection with them.
Absolutely. Or even, sending photos back and forth. It's so easy now because everybody has a smartphone.
Yeah.
But I would say, if you are traveling to a different time zone, you want to accommodate the time zone that your child is in.
Right.
In our case, we often have a 3-hour time difference, or if my husband's in Europe, it's more than that. So we really need to plan ahead to make sure that, we can talk to him right when it's convenient for the boys, not when it's like they're about to go into bed or, doing their homework or whatever.
That can throw them off too, right?
Yeah, I think keeping as much of a schedule as normal is great.
Yeah.
So just planning ahead helps.
Yeah, that's great. We have more questions. You guys are asking great ones. Oh, this is another one from Shannon. Shannon, you're coming up with some great ones. Shannon Nail-Goyden says, do you have ideas for illustrations or a story that didn't fit in the book that you were bummed to leave out? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I mean, I think we already talked about, the whole idea of this monster. That's like a character that still lives in my sketchbook.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that I'm bummed to lose it, because I think that and I could reuse it somewhere else, but it also helped me get through the creative process that led me to the book that I made.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a necessary step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we expect any more adventures from Bunny or Bunny's family? Do you think there'll be more?
I think there will be.
Yeah?
I think there will be.
Okay.
I have another one coming.
Oh, you do? Is it anything, or is it something that you can talk about? Or
it's not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay,
But
cool.
stay tuned.
Okay. And then other books. So this was, this is your second book, right, that you've written and illustrated.
Yes.
You've illustrated others. And so are you now sort of becoming really comfortable with that sort of process of both writing and illustrating? It's using kind of different parts of your brain, right? Sort of putting it together. Has that become something that's been really exciting and fun to you, to be able to do that, to sort of have the whole creation coming from you?
Yeah. I mean, it's my third child.
Yeah.
It's so amazing when you finally, get the printed thing in your hands and you can share it with kids. And this book especially, like, kids and parents have responded so well to it and have really connected with it and reacted to it and are enjoying Bunny. So that's just, it makes all of the, the agonizing hours of revision and, uncertainty, and you're not sure if things are working, it makes it all worth it in the end when you see the finished product.
Absolutely. And we have more questions. We have another question about Bunny's creativity. So this is Bunny's creativity reminds me of my daughters. Papers and glue everywhere. I would love to see a craft book of Bunny's ideas.
Scholastic. Let's do it.
Good idea. But there are really, I mean, I love so many of them, but one of them that I thought was so fun was the car. Yeah. I'm gonna show you guys.
Yeah, and they made the car out of the box, and I'm in my household. I know it's probably the same as everyone else. We're ordering so many things online, and we have boxes around many times during the week. So I love just giving my kids the box and letting them have at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they connect them and make a big fort. One time, as I said, they made the time machine.
Yeah.
And it really just goes back to basics.
Yeah.
Like kids have been playing with boxes, right? There's like at Christmas time or whatever.
They like the boxes.
They like the box more than the toy. And that, I think, is a timeless thing that just inspires so much creativity.
Yeah. It reminded me of my house in that it's so true. When we have boxes, they become TVs, they become a space machine, they become all kinds of stuff. And so it felt, I think, for many parents, I'm sure it was very relatable, the kinds of things that Bunny and Papa was creating. So it's very cool. And I guess I want to know also, other kinds of tips that you might have in terms of sort of travel and parents going away and kids. What are the other things that you might suggest that would help both separation? Because honestly, it's a separation for the kids, but also for the parents.
Yeah.
I think I read a little bit about where you're talking about the mom guilt that happens, right? When you're traveling, it's very hard to be away from kids.
Yeah.
It's equally as hard in a different way for parents. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. I think for the parent that is traveling and may have some guilt, I don't think that ever goes away.
Yeah.
I think you learn to manage it, and I think there are some times where it's going to hit you because it happens to be at the time that your kid is the tree in the school play.
Right.
Of course it's the same week as your major presentation that you have to travel for. And again, I think it's just try not to beat yourself up.
Right.
It's so common for households now to have two full-time working parents that are outside of the home. And it's part of kids' lives now, and I think it's pretty common. And very rarely do you have just the solo child that feels like they're the only one going through that. I feel like so many households are going through that. So it just becomes second nature for kids to know that's part of mom or dad's job.
Yeah.
And then for the parent that stays behind, which is what I relate more to now that I'm freelance and working for myself. And, you know, I let a lot of things go. Like, my living room is a mess. Oh, well, you know, and if it's a choice between doing a crafty staycation with my kids because it's going to be fun and it's going to make them feel better, or cleaning the living room, I'm not going to choose the living room. And so, you know, there are things that are important to deal with and things that you can let go. So you just got to like let go and look the other way.
Right. Well, on a recent trip, after the 2 weeks, I have a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old, very different ages. And I said to my daughter, yeah, we did pretty well, right? We got through pretty well. She's like, yeah, we did. And honestly, we did because of that. Like, everything wasn't exactly as we always do it. Maybe we had a night where we had a movie night on a school night where we might not normally. Or things that just kind of made it fun and, you know, for all of us, honestly, because then when you're the parent who's left behind, it's more pressure on you too.
Right. So, and then of course then it's when someone gets sick or you know, then there's the other, you know, the other inevitable things that wind up happening. Absolutely. And there's all these like balls in the air, and you know, that's why I never use the word balance when I discuss this topic. It's always juggling. Struggling.
It's not a
you
balance.
know, no, because balance implies that like work is here and you know, home is here, and it's either this or it's this. And you know, you just have to accept that. And sometimes that is hard to do. But, you know, if you find like a crew of parents going through similar things, and you can all, you know, talk each other off the ledge during those crazy times. And
find activities to do with each other. That's the other thing. Sometimes there's that opportunity.
Right. Or even with this stuff, I have kind of like this box in the closet of just like random craft stuff that I've kept over the years, you know, ribbons and things from birthdays and packaging and stuff. And it's just a random collection of stuff. And then there are those moments where I'm like, oh my God, we've already made 300 palm trees. We can't, you know, what are we going to do now? And I take out the box and I just let them dig through it.
It's like treasures.
And it's like a ribbon from 3 years ago suddenly is this, you know, amazing fun thing. So, you know, just having that stuff stowed away for those moments is really helpful too, because you can, it becomes new again.
Exactly. Well, this has been awesome. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Laurie Richmond, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This is the book we've been talking about, Bunny's Staycation. You can find a way to buy it in the links below. And I want to thank everyone for taking your time today. And thank you so much. It was so great chatting with you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Have a great day. Take care.